Main Hustle Media podcasts are recorded on the ancestral lands of the Chumash, Tongva, Karanka, and Hohokam people, and I wish to pay my respects to the people of those nations, both past and present. Hey y'all, welcome to the Queer and Far podcast, a travel podcast from a couple of queer femmes, providing tips and resources to travel safely while Black, brown, queer, disabled, or from any marginalized group or intersection in between. I am one of your co-hosts, Sir Auntie Charmaine Fury, aka the Blazing Blurred, and I am joined by my co-hosts,
Shae Nahnigans, still a noob, still here though. Hello, and I'm feeling better. The kidney stone is gone.
You do look like way better, like because I just saw you
Right?
3 weeks ago, and I
Not
cannot
feeling
believe
so good.
it.
Yeah. And then also we filmed with me doing
In
all
suffering,
this.
yeah.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, I had a kidney stone. I had to go get surgery for said kidney stone because I didn't want to take kidney stone to Mexico. If a kidney stone is not paying, you're not going.
You know, it's extra luggage.
But I had to get a stent in, and I had to wear that for a week.
Oh God,
It was 12 inches, guys.
that's my nightmare. That sounds like a nightmare.
I got it out yesterday. I am feeling so. Look at
Like your whole energy is different, like everything.
Yeah.
It's just I can't believe that you're even able to perform today, let alone.
Thank you. Well, I think what we all need to like reflect upon is like how like pain, even if it's not excruciating, it's so weary.
Yeah.
It makes you so tired. I mean, all I did when you were like checking in on me, how you doing? I'm sleeping.
Yeah, which is good news to me because those aren't usually responses that you give.
Still working.
Yeah. You're just like half in the bed dead, but the other half of my body is working.
Yeah. So
I was glad to hear that you were resting. I mean, even though it wasn't restful resting, because when you're in pain, it's never restful, but still.
I was attempting, and all the doggos were good. I have 2 dogs in here today, internets. So if you hear drinking, we may pause. But so far, they're just being quiet.
I also have one of 4 cats in the room too, because he insisted.
Today was like, today I need to be with mom.
Yeah, it's like, we're gonna be here. So
we have a special. Well, they're all special, but we have a special Queer and Fire podcast.
You feel good about today's topic?
I do. Today, as you can see at the bottom, internets, we are going to be discussing tourists behaving badly abroad. Ta-da! So we're just gonna leap right into it. Okay. All right. So, in all fairness, when I was doing research for this episode today, I was both amused in a funny hee-hee way, not ha-ha, but I ended up just being pissed because most of this shit is common fucking sense and common fucking courtesy, which isn't common. So that's, I guess, the rub.
Not common.
So a couple of them are like the worst, like stories, like that we can find. So we're gonna start off strong right off the bat. Now, first of all, technically, this was a 15-year-old child, but 15-year-olds, you should know better. Old enough to know better. In May of 2013, a 15-year-old teenager scrawled his name on an Egyptian temple, the Luxor, which is 3,500 years old.
That already kills me.
Yeah.
I was gonna be an Egyptologist, but I couldn't afford that to go away to college. So,
and so 350, and then what was so important that we had to write on top of hieroglyphics?
What was his name? Like Chad?
No, but it was Ding Zheho was here. That's their name. So this was a Chinese teenager behaving badly abroad. He was, of course, caught. Well, because tourists caught him doing it, told him to stop. He kept on going. And then those videos were turned into the authorities and such and such. Now, I heard that there was a fine, as it should.
At the minimum, yeah.
But, of course, his parents, issued a public apology. How about this one? In 2018, 2 Hungarian tourists tried to steal bricks from the crematorium of Auschwitz.
Oh my gosh. What's the move though? So you just have in your house and you're just like, this is from fucking Auschwitz? Like, what's the
and
now
for
I
those
can
of
understand, like, you're like, ha ha ha.
well, and here's the thing for those of you who don't know, and if you don't know what Auschwitz is, please take some time. But it's be prepared. It's very heavy. But it's the largest Nazi concentration camp. It's a death camp in Poland. Right. It was operated during World War II, and an estimated about over 1 million people died in that camp. And so when they were charged with cultural theft or cultural asset theft or something like that, but they were fined only $450 each, which, but they were also sentenced to a year in prison. When questioned, they quote said the tourists said that they wanted to take home a souvenir and they didn't understand what would be the consequence or the significance of taking said.
I mean, there's literal souvenir like things that could be gotten that are souvenirs that aren't like pilfering from
murder.
Yeah.
Like you're
I don't even know.
Yeah. The history is over 1 million people. Death is attached to that. And you
like, you know what it is when you're visiting, right? Like you don't stumble upon a death camp.
One would hope, though. I have heard stories of people visiting these places, Auschwitz, or even some locations where the enslaved were being held prior to being moved to the Americas, where our tourists who look like me are giggling and laughing in those spaces.
Yeah.
No reverence of where you are and what it means.
I've seen pictures of like people wearing clothes that are designed by, some of the Nazi-based fashion designers and stuff like that, but they're like at Auschwitz or one of the other death camps, and they were like wearing that kind of stuff, but they're like, posing and shit like that. I've seen pictures like that.
When you confront them, they go and they play the stupid tourist. What do you mean? It's just clothes.
Yeah.
We all know what you're doing.
But we don't. Yeah. I mean, because like if you're at that level of tourism, right, that you would go to a death camp, you've probably been to a museum before, and you know that you can't take shit out of a museum.
Yep.
Right? Like we know this, and in most cases, you can't touch shit at a museum.
In theory, but I have stories of people doing that.
Yeah, well, there's that too. But that you would go to a death camp, like it's not like it's hidden what happened there. I'm sure there's signs. I'm sure there's probably guides, maybe even there, that will tell you what's happening.
Right, but what's your goal? You're gonna go home and I don't know. You're gonna go home and you're gonna show your friends. Look,
right. I have
a memorabilia of death.
Yeah, that's weird.
It's not a flex, and if anybody did that in front of me, I will never. If you get away from me without me hitting you, that's a gift.
Yeah,
because you should be throat punched.
I mean, because like even in things like I went to Mark Twain's house in Connecticut, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's only one thing in the house you're allowed to touch, and that's a part of the stair banister. Mm-hmm. And so you can tell a lot of people have touched it over many years because it's literally the only part that they allow you to touch. And then they say this way you can say you touched something that Mark Twain touched or whatever, right? But there's just like this section of the thing, but everything else, don't touch the books, don't touch it, lean over, things like that, all that kind of stuff. This is just etiquette that we understand, full stop, in terms of touching shit. But to like want to bring home something that it's the death camp part that's getting me, because like if I walked away from Mark Twain's house with like, say, I don't know, a fucking pen or something, like just something that was on the desk, it'd still be pretty wild that I would have done something like that, right? Like it would be like something you can't tell everybody because somebody might tell on you. Like you should know if you do some shit like that would be not okay, and it would be stealing. But that at the worst, I would be claiming that I stole a pen from the desk of a writer.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
This
a
is
brick from
a death camp.
From a death camp where people were gassed to death.
Yeah.
You're gonna
Yeah.
I don't understand that shit at fucking
all. I mean, it's rough. It's rough, right?
So if this is the level we're at number 2, I feel like I'm gonna need a massage after
this.
I'm gonna need
seriously. Internets. I need you to be handling your 420, having a little drink, make yourself a little cocktail.
Goodness gracious! I just took some tension headache medicine because I got a headache up here, but damn.
It's pretty poorly, right? And so how about this one? So this happened in 2016, and this happened in I'm gonna say this wrong, Yunnan Zoo in Kunming, China.
Okay.
I'm sorry, guys. If I did that, I apologize if I mispronounced. But there were people that were visiting that were picking up the peacocks to take pictures with them.
What? Peacocks are hella mean.
But then pulling and removing their feathers.
No, come on.
And the birds ended up dying from shock.
Right. Mm-hmm. First of all, birds do die from shock.
Yes. They're very sensitive.
That's
yes.
A real thing. But you're pulling, those things have to drop naturally if they're going to drop. Right? Mm-hmm. You can't just pull shit. That shit would hurt. What if I took your fingernails off? That shit would hurt, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna
such assholes.
In let's see, 2017 in where are we? Spain. A baby porpoise got too close to shore.
Oh, I've seen this video. Yeah, that was awful.
Then people were grabbing it, holding onto it, letting their family touch it. And guys, it's wildlife.
It's wildlife.
Okay, you shouldn't be touching it. So everything, it's consent. I don't care if it wanders right up to you. If it wanders up to you and it's touching you, don't touch it. Don't get me wrong. Okay, I love dolphins.
Sure.
And would be me. I would be like,
yeah.
And not touching it.
Unless my touching had to do with me trying to free it from a net or
get it away from
out.
me, or if it was beached, I'm taking it. That's different. And we all know that's different.
But to be on Instagram,
a simple cut from your fingernail can be death to this animal because it can get an infection. I can show you a photo if you want, but it's a photo of an adult holding it while children are touching it, and the child puts its hand and is holding it on top of the blowhole.
Oh, come on. I don't know if I want to see that. You can show it if you want.
Okay, all right, internet.
I'm just
there now. So there you go, internet. Please don't do this. It is wildlife. And we're going to be getting into some of this because it also happens a lot in Hawaii. A lot of these animals are protected. Okay. Right. They're protected. Like monk sea lions are protected. And I can't tell you how many people are getting major fines going to Hawaii. A lot of these animals are protected. And here's the thing, especially for Hawaii, when you go to Hawaii, I've never been, but when you go to Hawaii, they often do presentations on how to behave while you're there.
Oh, if you do tourist type things or whatever? Okay.
To stick to paths, to not touch certain things. And there's signs everywhere that says that these are endangered species, do not touch, there's a fine, Okay. And for everyone, I'm not going to blame a child. Okay. I'm not going to blame a child, but most of the time, these are just entitled assholes who are like, I am here and I paid for an experience. And the other thing that I see a lot of, not just in Hawaii, but abroad, people walking and touching coral reefs. You are instructed,
right? Because you're killing it. Yeah.
You're killing it. It takes 100 years for an inch of that to grow. And I see people walking on it.
So the only time I've even come remotely close to a living coral was we did snorkeling in the Bahamas, but they tell you in advance, you're on the boat and they're like, don't touch it. They give you the speech about the 100 years to grow an inch and that your skin has all this stuff and it'll deteriorate it and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, like, even if you have gloves on, the stuff from the gloves, like the polyurethane or whatever,
you
like these
walking
are
on it. Yeah, these are things.
So they tell you, like, you can get relatively close, but if you get too close and you get within touching distance, you're going to get stuck up on the boat, and it doesn't matter what you've paid, and you're not going to get a refund, like that kind of stuff. This thing, like this sense of entitlement that people have when they go anywhere, is always, it's the immediate resistance to no. It's such a childlike thing to do. Like, wait, what do you mean I can't do something that I want to do? It's so ridiculous. But yeah, that I experienced seeing it up close like that.
Because not only can you get hurt, but
you
can cause damage.
It's very pointy.
Yeah, because the picture of that dolphin that we just saw, that animal died from a heart attack.
Yeah.
After being stressed out and manhandled and probably touched them and being without oxygen, it had a heart attack.
Yeah.
So is that what you want, your little happy moment that your kids got to touch? They can finally, I touched a dolphin.
And you should walk away feeling like you killed a dolphin, not you got to have this cool little experience or whatever, but that you killed this animal. You are the one responsible for its death.
Right. How about this one? This will be funny for you. Drunk British tourists break into SeaWorld in Australia and steal a penguin.
God damn it. What are you going to do with the damn penguin?
I mean,
you're going to put a jumper on it?
We're going to reenact Happy Feet. What are we doing? They were fined $1,000, which, so like, but as you can see, they awoke to find the penguin in their room without any recollection how they got there. So it was just like,
because they were drunk. Oh, goddamn.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Like, I've been drunk before. I've done stupid shit while drunk. I've never been that drunk.
So I've never been drunk. It's not that I haven't tried in the past. One, I don't like alcohol and I don't generally drink. Two, when I tried to drink and drink alongside a whole bunch of people that were drinking, everybody was passed out and I was not.
Yeah.
So I have a very high tolerance, I guess.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And that the fact that everybody was passed out, including the 6'5" dude, kind of freaked me out that I didn't get drunk. So I've never been drunk. I have been like kind of hot, like physically warm. I've felt sleepy. I've had to pee a lot. But that's the closest I've ever gotten. So not having the experience of being drunk enough to be functional and not know what you're doing at the same time, I've never experienced anything even remotely close to that. But also just like, calm it down. You don't have to get drunk into blackout period. You just don't have to.
And here's my thing. If you behave that way, if you're drunk, don't go somewhere. And if you have friends and family that behave that way, don't fucking take them somewhere. Because here's the thing. I'm not just going to be mad at the person. I'm going to be mad at the people who should have been babysitting your ass.
Right. Yeah. I don't like to be around drunk people. Too much flashbacks from childhood, but like.
Right. But here's the thing. Here's the thing, internets. Okay. When I am going to be traveling with Charmaine and I am doing white people shit.
Please don't do white people shit.
I will try my bestest, but I happen to be, and it might happen even with best intent. No, in all seriousness, if I'm starting to act out of pocket, this one's gonna grab me by my nose.
I'm gonna Caesar Milan. I'll be like, just get you in the neck.
Okay. And the same thing applies with her. Now, do I have any real worry about that? No, I don't. But that's the thing. Like, if I'm traveling with somebody, I want somebody that's going to have my back, have my best interests at heart, to include even against my own worst enemy, which tends to be me.
I wonder what my behaving bad, because I'm not going to think that I wouldn't like, or, I mean, I'm generally an aware person and stuff like that. And I try to be thoughtful, mindful and shit like that. But I don't know what my behaving badly thing is. I know I have a low tolerance for the sounds that children make.
Yeah.
I have a low tolerance for sounds, repetitive sounds and things like that.
Smells. It might be kind of hard to be in a place where you may not
you know, I try
you
if
might
it's
be triggered. Yeah.
You know, I might not be like, oh my God, it's so, you know, I probably won't behave that way.
Right.
But I wonder what my behaving bad thing is. I know that I get real grumpy when I'm hungry, and I get real grumpy when I haven't been able to pee in a while.
Right.
Because I do have a friend who says they don't like going places with me because of how frequently I need to pee.
That doesn't bother me at all, especially now. I get irritated when I don't know where I get, when I'm feeling vulnerable. Like I know I'm going to be like having anxiety because I have anxiety in general, but it's going to be even more so when I don't know the language very well. I may not understand where I'm going, or, it's going to be a learning curve or whatever, but I'm going to be trying to be as patient with myself as possible. And I'm going to try to be as patient with you as possible, and vice versa. But like, these stories right now are extremes.
Right. Yeah.
People are going to be like, well, Shae, I'm not going to do that. But, it's also the little things. The number one thing that everybody should be doing when you're planning on going to somebody else's home.
Yeah.
Is to do some due diligence.
Just learn a little bit of shit.
Just a little bit. Cultural things that are appropriate. How is this tipping work there? How does what is the curfew hours for certain things? What
hand gestures.
Like I believe, I can't remember, in Asian cultures, I believe this is rude.
Pointing is rude. Yeah, so Jay taught us last time that in Korea they do the under, like your fingers point down when you're telling someone to come towards you.
That's right.
In Japan, it's so weird. It's more of like the Mickey Mouse rules where you never point, but you kind of like your hand is sort of gesturing in a direction. You don't point near even an object. That's not really a thing that we do for Japanese culture either. Some Southeast Asian, I know Filipino in particular, which actually this carries in a lot of different places. This is like a South American thing as well, and a Caribbean thing. You point with your lips.
Yeah.
That's not an East Asian thing, but it's a Southeast Asian, Latino, and Caribbean thing. So the different things like that. In America and in a lot of Asia, you do peace sign with your fingers, the inside of your hand pointing out. But in Britain, if you flip it the other way, well, so with being black too, like you could do this with the backside of your hand facing out, and that's fine, or you can do this and that's fine. But if you do this in England and the UK, this is the bird, so you don't do that. You don't do this peace sign.
And in my people, it's this.
Yeah, the under your neck thing, under your chin thing,
or this.
But also sometimes touching your nose in some cultures and things like that. Certain gestures of the way you touch your face can trigger stuff. So like learn
in certain places where they eat with their hands, they eat with one hand, and you never offer.
You don't use your left.
To shake. Yeah, you don't. Like, just due diligence, guys. And also, you're gonna mess up.
Sure.
You could chuckle about it, like apologize, move forward.
Also, your reaction tells a big story too.
Yes.
Like if someone says, "Oh, you don't do that here," and your reaction is, "Well, you can't." Like, okay, so this actually just happened. We went to a place that was like a bakery with a friend, and they had a ramen cake, so it looked like a bowl of ramen, and it had the chopsticks sticking straight into the thing. And I was like, instant no, because for East Asians, you can't stab your food with chopsticks because that's the way we indicate feeding. It's like what we do on our authors for our dead, right?
Yeah.
So like we will stab the rice with chopstick. Or incense, like incense will stick like that or whatever on our different altars. So it depends on what kind of East Asian, custom or whatever. But that is always a no-no across almost all of Asia. And so when I said, oh, that's offensive they basically offend all Asians with that one. And my friend's reaction was, you can't not offend somebody. And I'm like, no. If you're mimicking the culture, and you do something offensive within the culture, you should take that shit down, right? Yeah. Like that's the way I feel about that. And so that was a very disappointing thing with my friend, because this is the second time a chopstick thing in like 12 years is the second time the chopstick thing has come up, and they have been very dismissive about the fact that it's offensive to Asians.
I actually saw something recently on TikTok. I don't even remember her name because it was like content that I didn't really care about, but it was a person who looks like me, younger person who is
a food content person.
And they were making, but they were
Right.
making like it's something that hangs on your wall art.
Oh,
Like
okay.
it looks like food, like a cereal bowl, and
Oh,
with
okay.
this
Then
stuff,
this one's
but
not the one I'm
it's
thinking.
art, and it's really cool because it looks like real food, but that's her thing. And then she makes
Okay.
art. So she did ramen, and she had the chopstick sticking in
Maybe
it.
it is the same one. Okay.
And
Yeah.
somebody said, "Hey, so you know that," and she went, "Oh," and then she corrected it. And she was like, "Thank you so much for letting me know." But then it was the people in the comments going, "You shouldn't have to do that.
Yes.
It's people being so sensitive.
I remember saying this.
Everything is so." And she's like, "Why, guys? Like, first of all, I don't know why you're defending me because one, I made a mistake. I didn't do something on purpose.
It was it was just ill information and not being informed.
And not being informed because I was coming in there with my mindset. There's nothing wrong with somebody giving me another perspective. And I got to make something that's more authentic.
Right.
And that is the correct way of handling it.
It's so easy. It's so easy because if someone
sorry,
hey, we don't do that here in this culture, or this is offensive in our culture, and your reaction is, oh my goodness, I didn't know. Thank you for letting me know. What is the proper thing I can do? Then boom, that's a fine moment. You walk away, no one's upset. Everybody, even if someone's a little upset, they still realize that you weren't trying to do it. But if your initial reaction is, well, I didn't know. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't think you knew.
That's why I'm telling you.
You don't have to be defensive. Like,
I'm assuming you're not an asshole.
I gave you the benefit of the doubt, right? Like this way that people are so reactive to something you didn't know. Like, I'm not accusing you of willful ignorance in this moment. I'm saying, hey, we don't do that here, da 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 da. But because you've reacted the way you are, now I'm saying you are being willfully ignorant because I've told you that this is offensive to an entire culture of people. Yeah, it's so easy. It's so easy to not be offended when you're told you're wrong, because all you have to do is go, oh, well, what's the right thing?
Well, and the other thing is this: you are not born with infinite knowledge. The only way you learn is to have an oops. There's nothing wrong with an oops.
Yeah.
It's how you, honestly, what makes you an asshole is how you react to it.
Yep.
Because if you're so fucking fragile that you can't just learn about something, be like, oh my God, that's so interesting. Thank you for letting me know. I apologize for that. I'm going to do better next time. That's how easy it is.
Super easy.
Okay.
Hit me with another one.
That was a rant. We're sorry. I'm not sorry.
Sometimes you got to rant.
Sometimes I got to rant. Okay. 2 travelers from Canada and I guess a couple from the UK apparently found a can of spray paint well inebriated when they were in Thailand and decided to tag the nearest wall, which happens to be the PHAE Gate Faye. How do I pronounce that?
I don't know how to pronounce that.
I apologize, internet. If you please tell us down below how to pronounce that. A popular tourist attraction in Bangkok, Thailand. It dates back to the 13th century.
See, this is something that really bothers me. It's not that I necessarily expect that you need to respect all physical things that exist or whatever. But should you not be a little bit impressed that something lasted that long?
Yeah.
And that the last thing it needs is some asshole to write like, spray paint a dick or like whatever on it.
Yeah.
Could we just not?
Yeah.
Because there's paper for that.
It's illegal. I happen to love graffiti and I happen to love street, but however, it's frowned upon pretty much everywhere to do that anywhere.
Like, okay, so I guess I'm a little flexible with something like if it's a train car, I don't care. I don't own the train car, but I don't care.
Bank of America, something part of the corporate world,
something corporate. If it's like the inside of the aqueduct, I grew up in LA, whatever, like that kind of shit. I don't care. If it's some kind of rogue piece of cement somewhere that isn't like, what I personally don't necessarily care for some, I don't care if that kind of stuff. But if you're telling me that this wall exists here from 1300,
right?
I'm gonna kind of would rather see it in its glory and not see some asshole's tag on it.
Yeah.
Or gum. you know, or whatever, trash, all that kind of stuff, that nonsense stuff. Like, I would just rather like be able to sit there and go, I'm looking at something that somebody 5,000 years ago looked at, 10,000 years ago looked at, you know, what, maybe not 10,000,
right?
you know what I'm saying?
No, I do. No, we say, because when I was in Italy and I was doing some of the tours up through Tuscany, I remember I was standing by something, and I looked over and there was a well that was boarded up, because of course they don't use wells anymore. And somebody was going by with a tour, and they explained that this well was actually installed by the Knights Templar. And I was like, I am standing I mean, some historical stuff, let's take a second, but just the concept of that, I am standing in a place where Knights Templar watered their horses.
It's weird to learn, to see something that you've learned something about, and it becomes more realistic and not like this fantasy idea that someone is.
It was more concrete. I can, it's standing next to it. But you know, because also America, we think things made in the 70s are old.
So, I know, like we don't
like
our oldest buildings might, like me, something that was born in the 70s, like myself. I was crafted in the 70s.
That's right.
Yeah, like, because even it's so funny, because the first time I went to Canada, there was a building there that we saw where my uncle took me to that was about 150 years old. And at the time I was so like, oh my God, the building's 150 years old. And he looked at me, he's like, why is that fascinating to you? Mind you, my uncle's from England, so he's not fascinated by 150. I was like, I'm from California. Our oldest buildings are missions.
Yeah.
You know, and you don't see them unless you go to them. So at best, I'm looking at, you know, maybe in San Francisco, I might see 100-year-old building or something like that. But it has to scream out at you to tell you how old it is, right? It has to have a plaque. It has to have something or whatever, because there's an aesthetic in San Francisco where even newer stuff kind of is built to look like the older stuff. Or whatever. I'm not accustomed, and I also grew up in LA. I'm not accustomed to seeing things that are that old. So, you know, it's not like from that point I had been to Paris, so I had seen old buildings there too. But my fascination of what I was seeing was not just the Eiffel Tower and the Arc de Triomphe and stuff like that. It was the literal age of some of the buildings you walk past. And it was like, this is just some bastard's apartment.
Right.
But it's like from 1790 or something like that. And that's impressive.
I was in Venice, or Florence, the traditional way of anyway. I went to
Florence and Venice are in different parts of Italy, aren't they?
I'm sorry, Florence and what else is the other way that they call it? Anyway, I'll get there. So Florence is not the same as I misspoke. So I'm in Florence. Okay. And I walk into a store that is across the street from a cathedral of some sort, a church. Okay. And I went, oh, that's a very pretty mural. And they went, oh yeah, that's a Da Vinci. And I went,
he'd just be like, it's just on the street
next to the display
of like Ugg
boots. They're selling. It was a woman's clothing store, and so I was like,
that's weird, bro, because we live in a place where shit like that is separate.
I mean, I'm glad that they, obviously they take care of it, but that because apparently that store was like the granary or something, and I'm like, he just was in there practicing. Okay.
That's so funny because it reminds me of every now and then I know I'm scratching my back again. Every now and then I watch the International House Hunters because I fantasize live all over the world. But this couple moved from Austin, Texas to Spain to Madrid because she was studying in Madrid, and he wanted something that was like authentically Spanish and she wanted something more modern, obviously. So the guy was like, I think I found something that's the best for both of you, because the building itself was like the back end of the wall was like the wall of Madrid, like the wall that kept people out, whatever. And then, the rest of the building has been sort of modernized. And so she sees the wall, and he's like, so he's explaining like this, building, like, whatever, 1300, 1400,
No.
whatever.
3 cents.
And the husband was just like, oh my God, like this wall was seen by like so many warriors and so many battles probably got seen, or blah, blah, blah. And she's just like, it's kind of like, it's not very clean or whatever. And it's just like, you think something that's maybe over a couple thousand years old might not be.
Oh, I don't know. Went through a couple of like, the plague a few times, and a couple of burning downs of things.
Burning down, like
couple of lots of wars.
Ridiculous.
Famine. You're right. We should dust.
Yeah.
Anyway, so going back to this couple, these people that got in trouble for spray painting the wall in Thailand, they were facing up to 10 years in prison, in a Thai prison.
I feel like Southeast Asia don't play with shit
either. Nope. But they got off light, even though they bitched that they got off with a $6,000 fine. And I'm like, honestly,
do you remember that kid when we were teenagers that like spit gum out on the floor in Singapore and he got caned? And it was the whole big thing of like asking President Clinton to try to like get him extradited back to the States or whatever. Yep. And it was like, you broke the law. You didn't know the law, but you broke the law. Also, you littered.
Right. Like, it's
you got to know where you're going. You can't just roll up as an American or a Westerner in any way, shape, or form and just think things are going to be the same way it is at home, because it's just not going to be like that.
And truth be known, internets, okay, the American exceptionalism that predated the COVID is over. Many of the world is done with our shit.
Right.
After the last administration, they're done. And there's actually an article I'm going to be reading from that there are more and more places now putting shit in place on American tourists in particular.
That's interesting. And I don't blame any place.
Neither do I.
Kind of shit at all.
I'm not going to lie. There were times when traveling abroad, I said I was from Canada. I'm not going to lie. Yes, I did. I said
it's weird because there are times when like people would be like American. And I was like, why'd you go for American and not Canadian? Because why do I even me, why did I code as American? Like that sometimes it's stressful to think.
Sometimes I don't like, I remember in Italy, I had a really hard time with schedules. I like schedules, but in Italy, the schedule is more like a guideline, not really like, it's always scheduled to change depending on how people are feeling about it.
I understand this.
And it was really hard for anxiety, like, because a lot of times you saw the bus leaving and it'll tell you what time it arrives, but it doesn't tell you what time that bus or train to come back so you can come back to your hotel room. So by the time you get there, you discover
there's not one until tomorrow.
Yeah. And now you have to like think on the fly. And that literally was like, I was like that, but I
have anxiety about, I don't like when people make me wait. And I'm usually early. I'm usually like way early, right. But when I'm late, I'm like way late. Yeah. Like those are my two moves, but it's usually that I'm early. But if I have to wait on somebody, or if I tell someone I can only do this between 3 and 5, and then you're pushing me into, we don't start on time and we don't finish on time, and you're just like, it's not that big deal or something like that, I can't roll with that. Like that stresses me the hell out. That being said, I do understand, because I have an international family, that time works differently for all the different people that I'm in some form of relation with. So I know that if I'm with my husband's Arabic side, we're going to sit and eat for hours. And the wait staff is going to be trying to rush us out. And then my father-in-law is going to add another crab cake to the list just so that you leave us alone.
Yep. No, but in Italy, dinner is a long time thing. You sit for several courses too. Now, most tourists don't do it that way, of course. Yeah. Because the idea is eating longer period of time, but smaller amounts
and slower, so that you can you're digesting and eating
and enjoy the wine and the this time. So because I remember one of the restaurants we ended up staying at was It was called the Gary like Cafe or something. And the reason why they named it that, and it was etched on the wall, you could still see. Remember, is the person who wrote Dante's Inferno used to go there because it was a pub or a, you know, and he wrote on the wall.
Like an asshole,
like an asshole.
He became famous, so it's okay.
Because he was I think he had a room up like in the attic or something like that at the time. But it's just like, anyway, like the concept. So but
that's why I wanted to stay at the Algonquin Hotel in New York, because of the vicious circle.
This is now a defunct Instagram account, but there was an Instagram account called the Traveling Butts. Has anybody heard of it? Okay. They were two U.S. men who traveled around the world going to various places where they would pose nude in very famous sites.
Which I imagine was illegal in some places.
Yeah, well, they were detained, fined for public indecency, and then blacklisted from ever returning to Thailand. I do not know the year of this, but now because of the backlash that they were getting, they because they were going to temples, people's holy sites. Like, I'm not religious, but come on, like,
I mean, you don't want to just see naked asses randomly. You want to select the naked asses that you see.
Because consent is a thing, guys. I don't care if the two of you are consenting. I did not consent to see your naked, hairy butts.
I want to be in the mood to decide what naked butts I want to look at.
So, yeah. So, I mean, those are just some. There's so many. Let me bring out my other stuff. I have arsenals for you guys. But one of the things, like, I think we can, how about this? How about we show videos? If I can do some videos for you guys. I wanted to give it. So, Lilo and Stitch is a Disney animated movie about two young girls. One of them, it's actually an adult. I believe she's canonically 19, with her younger sister, who's probably like 6 or 7, which I had no idea. But apparently, most of the autistic community accept Lilo as a spokesperson of autism. I did not know that. But now that I do know that, I'm like, this all makes very much more sense to me. But for those of you who don't know, who haven't seen it, this is a movie that takes place in Hawaii from two people that are indigenous to Hawaii. And this was a scene from the movie that was not accepted to be added in because it was too controversial, and they thought they were going to be upsetting American viewers in particular.
White American viewers, I'm assuming? Okay.
Tourists. Okay.
The beach. My halo.
Hey, speak English? Which way to the beach?
Aloha, Lilo.
Hi, Lonnie. Are they still testing the sirens today?
Away. Any minute now.
Good.
Oh, look! A real native!
Attention, tourists! That is a tsunami siren! It warns people when big 100-foot waves are coming! When you hear it, you better run! And I mean run! 'Cause they move faster than the speed of sound! And that is your only warning!
Isn't that cute?
Sit up. Now put your arms out. Terrorists, prepare to die!
What?
Does girl control ocean?
How should I
If you lived here, you'd understand.
Hell yeah. So the moments that I was getting offended were all the white people shit.
Yep.
My halo. Do you speak English? Where's the
that right there. Do you speak English? And as a white person who has witnessed, I don't know how many white people asking my Asian, do you speak English, or you speak English very good? I have seen it too many times to count.
The amount of times Asian American people that are born here who don't speak the language of their people that they descend from, get told that their English is really good, even after declaring, well, I was born here and it's the only language that I speak. I hear it all the time. I hear it all the time. I mean, I don't have that kind of face, so people don't know where I'm from.
It happens to Fiona a lot. In fact, there was I was like, of course, because it never happened to me. So of course, like when that's stupid. Of course it does. But to see it, because of course I believed Fiona, but to actually see it happen in live, like especially when she was the one helping people, and then they would come up with, and they were like, it's a compliment. I'm like, no, it's not.
It's not.
Well, and going back to the scene that we just watched, guys, from Lilo and Stitch, like there's a person who posted that on TikTok. The name is messed up right now, but I should probably give her credit for posting it. I'm surprised this scene got this far in production. It's too real for Disney. The thing is,
the too real part.
The animators obviously did their research and really did listen to the indigenous people of Hawaii, who have been asking us for a very long time, tourists, please stop coming. We're being destroyed. And there's a whole episode that we can talk about how Hawaii was made a state against their will,
right?
And how we, literally assassinated the queen.
Yeah.
Please, everybody, do some research. It's great. But it's also that even the people that are like, no, we need tourism, whatever. Yeah, but this is not it.
That's not it. And it's just the entitlement to a space. Like, so my family, half of my family lives in Hawaii, and I haven't been in a long time. I haven't been since 1996. So it's, there's a lot of like, come back, plus my aunt just passed away, and I don't think I'm going to be able to go. I don't know the things, I don't know the information about. But like the amount of times I've wanted to go or even tried to go, but there's that mix between my family's there, and I've never experienced Hawaii as like a tourist. I haven't done any of the touristy things there. Beyond, I've told people, like, I have gone to the Dole plantation when I was a kid, but that's kind of like a rite of passage thing that even like the kids that live there all have had to go to. But I haven't done like Diamond Head or any of the other kind of stuff. I've just basically slept on the floor in my great grandma's house. That's kind of the extent of Hawaii I've experienced. But like the way that they are always complaining about, the trash that's everywhere, and that's because the tourists, the way that they, mess up a lot of the beaches because of the overwaxing of boards, or like the product of materials that they're using, and then forget about the military, forget about
No, but just during COVID, they had very strict rules, more strict than most states, about wearing masks, and so many people, too many tourists ruining it.
Refused it. Yeah,
the native people of Hawaii, their numbers are so low, and us behaving poorly and not sticking to COVID mandates over there, we're killing elders. And that's, well, I don't want to wear a mask because it's my vacation. Then go somewhere else.
Go somewhere else. Like, you don't have to go to Hawaii.
But it's so cheap.
I mean, first of all, it's not.
Well, I mean, in comparison to whatever.
I guess at the time during COVID, a lot of that's
because the natives, the people who run Hawaii, unfortunately, are not the indigenous people. So these are people that want to make money, and of course, that's why they were making
even the people that claim descendancy. That whole land thing with the descendants of Hawaii, but they were all white people. Because they had done the dirt that they had done. Like, even their lack of respect for the native language is almost gone. They've had to try to rebuild the language. There's literal parts of the language that is missing now because of how quickly they, erase the language from people, that until recently it was illegal to speak Native Hawaiian language in schools and shit like that. You know, there were so many things like that. So you're talking about like not only just the depletion of the land and the resources, you're talking about the depletion of the culture or the commodification of the culture or like the Americanization or bastardization of the culture so that so it's consumable for tourists. And then you got assholes who like bring snakes over. There's no indigenous snakes to the Hawaiian Islands. And then all of a sudden now there's all these rogue fucking snakes because people who have snakes can't care for snakes. So they release them out into the wild. And so now the bird population has disappeared, you know, or dwindled because of
same thing happened in Fiji. There are birds that burrow. They don't
yes,
and they brought mongoose over there to take care of the rat problem, which then started affecting that
bird population.
Then they brought over cats to take care of the mongoose.
Like the amount of times like fucking you're the invader. not the animal, you know.
No, we're bringing you democracy.
Excellent. I'm so glad. But so things like that. Like Hawaii is it's a tough spot because, you know, I want to go see my family, but I also want to be respectful of, you know, the indigenous people saying, not even for shit like that, you know. You know, it's a mixed bag. It's a mixed bag, I guess, is what I'm saying.
I've always wanted to go, and I've met so many wonderful. I mean, I hate TikTok at the same time.
You've been invited too, like
no, we would love to have you. And I'm like, I just don't feel comfortable doing that right now. Like, I just don't. I mean, I want to be respectful, and honestly, I can visit Hawaii virtually for right now.
Yeah, between the two of us, I would go.
Yes.
Because you have more with my family.
Right? And I don't really have. I mean, thank you for inviting me. That would be really awesome.
I don't even necessarily have to. Like, I would probably stay in a hotel just because I don't want to be too much of a burden to any family member. Now that I'm an adult and I don't have to, like, you know, sleep on my grandparents' floor or anything like that. But the way that I would move, like, so I've never done any of those touristy things, even though like my cousins have all had to work at Pearl Harbor at some point or another. I probably won't do that because I don't have the same feelings about Pearl Harbor necessarily that, you know, some of the people that would visit Pearl Harbor would have. Luau's and shit like that. The way that I would experience something like that is when my cousins do something like that, you know, which they do. They have their own versions of their private events and stuff. Of course. I've participated in things like that. One of my cousins used to be married to someone who was Native Hawaiian, and they had, you know, like hunts, you know, like, and things like that, and then, you know, roasts and stuff like that after the hunt. I didn't participate in the hunt, but I participated in the roast after and things like that. So like there are, between the two of us, if an opportunity presented itself, more than likely I would say yes, and you would probably say no with that thing. But in the way that, like, let's say a brand asked us to come out to review them. In that case, I probably would say, I would say no to that. But I would, you know, if I can do it in the non-tourist way where I just get to hang out with my family, I would definitely be going back right now too. But yeah.
Right. So this next one is going, I mean, I'm not surprised. It's a white cishet male, not listening to people during a tour. And then when his ass is being saved from death, didn't even thank the people risking their lives to save it.
All right, let's check it out.
When it was all over, Francis recalls the man didn't say much to him.
He didn't say thank you. For me, it's good for him to be alive.
A Hilo native risks his own life to save the life of a man dangling near the edge of a 400-foot cliff, and the man rescued didn't.
Aldwin.
Listen to this man give fucking dirty ass directions.
Grab me, no, grab with your hand. Somebody come on. Oh, hold tight.
Aldwin.
Hold tight.
Can we hold him?
That's the guy dangling.
Can you hold him too?
Oh, here, give it here. Here. I need here. No, Link. Come on, somebody, please.
Stop being a dick while you're trying to be safe.
Grab me. Come on.
Save me, but don't do it that way.
Right? Like that's the thing that I'm finding.
So he left the path to go take a picture close to the edge, but the foliage didn't show that he literally
There's
was
like
going
instructions that say don't do this thing that you're about to
do
do.
this in particular. He went over there, I want to, and he fell and was holding on to, and he was going to end up with a sudden stop at the bottom of a 400-foot drop.
The way in which I have no empathy for the person that will, because I want to.
Yeah.
First of all, it's not an accident that these rules are here to say, don't walk on this path or don't go here. You're either going to damage indigenous foliage, animal ecosystem, whatever, either that, or you're going to risk your life, or you're going to risk the life of someone who's going to try to save you,
right?
Which is the worst thing
ever.
I mean, well, I think damaging an ecosystem also, because that has different kind of fallout. But like, if that young man had died because he tried to save your ass and you survived, fuck you, going. I want you thrown over too. You know, like yes, but no, but yes. So all of that stuff. But then it's the bitchiness of how he's so confident that he's going to survive that he's continuing to be a dick.
Yeah.
And then on top of it, not thank a person who risked their life, who wouldn't have had to risk their life if you didn't break the guidelines that were trying to keep you safe. Rules. I mean, are there some rules that are shitty for no reason? Yeah, absolutely. Whatever. But don't cross this threshold or you're going to plummet to your death.
Yeah.
Is probably a good rule. And I'm probably going to trust that sign. And fuck you for being that much of a dick. Like that shit is...
I told you. I said, what did I say? It was researching this, was laughing at one hand, but it was like not a funny laugh. And then like, just want to throw my phone.
If I heard that story and I saw that much of the video where he's like, no, do it like this, do it like that. And then ultimately he slid and fell. I would have been like, yeah, fine. I see no tragedy here.
The only tragedy is the people watching you.
The people watching. Yeah. That like the damage of, I saw this man plummet
to his death because he's a fucking moron.
Because if I was in that boat or whatever, that tram or whatever that is, and I saw him acting like that and then he fell, the way I would have told the story going forward was, so first of all, this guy was being an asshole and he crossed the threshold that he put himself at risk. A couple guys tried to save him. He didn't like how they were trying to save him. He was being a dick to them the whole time. Here's the video because you can see he was being a dick the whole time. And then because he wasn't listening to the people trying to save him, he plummeted to his death. And now all of us have to suffer knowing that we witnessed a person plummet to their death because the person who plummeted to their death was being a dick. So I feel bad for that guy.
So thank you for risking your life. I think it was extremely appropriate that you were holding on to that gate, or that maybe because it looks like you went over a fence. So he was holding on to that fence and
to keep him
his leg.
Yeah.
And that would make more sense. Sorry, I hit the microphone.
Climb up
because I'm holding on so that we don't fall to our.
I'm being a human rope versus a rope. You know.
Yeah.
So that's infuriating. It's shit like that that's really infuriating. And when I see the kind of tourists, and I've been lucky enough to travel to a few different countries and stuff, and I have seen the tourists that make me not want people to pick up on the fact that I'm an American, because I'm not that kind of an American. I've seen that kind of stuff. I've heard people, like I've been in France and heard people ask, why aren't they speaking English? Because they speak fucking French. Why don't you speak French? Why don't you learn like 10 sentences that you can use when you go to France?
This is what the exceptionalism that I'm talking about that we're going to segue into later, but it's literally like it's because all these places, because they want our money, they coddled us.
Yeah.
So we think that everything is just literally for an amusement and to our detriment.
I hate it. I hate it so much because like what we're about to do, right? We're about to go to Mexico in less than a month, 26 days at the time that we're recording.
I need to shop.
And we don't know enough Spanish yet.
No.
But what I'm very certain that none of us will do is blame the Mexicans for not speaking English.
Yep.
more than anything, we're going to be like, man, we should have been working harder on our Spanish
and
this whole time.
apologize. I'm going to go slow, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I've intentionally learned the sentences okay, now that I'm about to say this word, I realize I've forgotten them and I know it's like más despacio, but like I intentionally asked my tutor for the, correct way, the most polite way to say, could you please slow down? Or can you repeat that? Like I got those sentences and I wrote them down and they're sitting in my phone because I want to be able to practice and refer to those when I'm like, sorry, I'm trying to speak Spanish. I'm practicing, but could you speak slower for me?
Yep.
Could you repeat what you just said? Because I don't want to be disrespectful while I'm also going to be frustrating the people who are going to be talking to me. Because, and I've been on that side of it. I've been the person who's, my frustration is not at the person who doesn't speak English. My frustration is that I can't communicate enough in whatever languages people I've interacted with before. Right. And that's just a human thing. We have the desire to communicate. And if we're dealing with a language barrier, that's when hand gestures and stuff like that come in. And you're just so frustrated with, I wish I could have communicated with you, but I'd never translate that into, why don't you speak English for me to be able to communicate with you? It's usually the other thing of like, man, I just wish I knew enough of every language that I encounter to be able to communicate. Right. So shit like that, blah, 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 whatever. But you got a couple others for me too. So which one do you want me to pull up? Watch it in advance.
Never mind. We'll do this one.
Well, you look excited.
Guess what?
What?
You can't take your phone, cameras inside.
Okay, so that's the rules.
You get persecuted.
That sounds serious.
Sacrifices here.
You don't want to fuck with that.
Let's go inside.
Okay, but don't film, okay?
30 minutes outside of San Francisco.
You're gonna film anyway? So because of your feelings of entitlement, you went and filmed them anyway after they explicitly said that was not allowed. I would say I'm shocked, but I'm not at all. And normally this would be the part where I drag you for being disrespectful and entitled, but I think it's pretty much out of my hands at this point.
Any guesses? Oh my god, I got her stuck. Clay was stuck in this. Check it out. One tire.
Why is she so happy?
Because she's an idiot.
Now this could just be a coincidence, but it could also be more than that. And in the immortal words of Oda Mae Brown, it is my opinion that
you in danger, girl.
First of all, Studia, if you're not following her on TikTok,
she's amazing.
Fix it.
Because it's like so many layers. Like it could be a food thing, it can be a travel thing. It
great content.
Yes,
she makes.
I
great
also
content.
appreciate that she blocked the part because a lot of people will retweet something, regram something, and be like, "Hey, this person did the bad thing," while you're showing everybody in the background.
This actually happened in Mexico. This woman was invited in to see a special ceremony, but said, please, in honor of our traditions, please do not film. And this person snuck in a camera and laughed about it the entire time. And then, of course, didn't really the half-ass fucking apology and blah, 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 blah. Honestly, her account got banned off TikTok. I don't fucking care. Like, fuck people like this.
I hate this.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I really wanted to show you a video where there was actually someone that got hurt. But I just
which is good to come off of after that other one. Okay.
But I didn't know how some of the places that we stream to would feel about somebody actually getting hurt. So I'm only going to be showing you, this is the King's Guard or the Queen's Guard in London. They not only don't, sometimes they stand with horses on their guard. Go ahead.
Okay.
Play ahead. Pay close attention to the sign to the left that you will see in just a second. See the sign?
Horses make cake.
And the horse is shaking its head. It's clearly uncomfortable.
Yeah, it doesn't want to be there.
It doesn't want to be fucking touched.
I can relate.
And they're getting so close. Oh my god.
He's touching. He's touching. Hey. No, don't touch me.
Look at those ears.
Oh yeah, they're turned. You also just don't have to touch it. Plus it puts the guy on top at risk too.
Yes.
Why do people need to touch?
I've been bit by a horse. It's not pleasant.
You can just be near it. You get the picture.
I have seen video of royal horses biting the shit out of people.
Listen, whenever I see a person fucking with an animal they shouldn't fuck with get hurt by said animal, it feels so like, I'm not a person to believe in anything, right? I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in any
karma.
Kind of stuff. But the way that karma concept kicks in so bad, like my favorite thing is to watch hunters get beat the shit out of by deer. That's that's one of my kinks. I love to see immediate, mind you, some of it is crazy violent and scary and atrocious, but if you fuck around,
find out.
You will find out. And that is a great example of fuck around, find out. So
right.
The way that it makes me laugh, it's gonna make me laugh. If you fuck around with an animal you shouldn't be fucking around with and you get hurt, that's funny to me. Mind you, I live in a house of cats. Every now and then, sometimes you're petting a cat and sometimes you pet one too many times and you were missing signals because they almost always give you signals. There's very few times they don't give you signals. And sometimes they hit you with like, every now and then one of my cats will hit me with one and it'll come out of nowhere and I'll be like, what the fuck did I do? I don't know what I did. I probably did something earlier. Or in the case of Revan, who is very much my child, someone pissed him off a little while ago.
Yeah.
And I'm just the one who got punished for the other cat or person pissing them off. But so there's things like that. Like you got to pay attention to the signs. That horse was giving enough signs. It was shaking its head. It was moving out of the way when people tried to touch it, and its ears were backwards, which is in almost every animal a sign that the
guards are not supposed to talk to you.
And they're not supposed to talk.
They're not supposed to talk to you at all. So even if to warn you, they're not even supposed to warn you.
Yeah, it's almost. And this is that way of catering to nonsense. You almost kind of wonder how they never hired a person whose job it is to tell people, shut the fuck up, walk away, don't touch, don't get out of the way. I mean, in England, I've seen people try to, like, I've taken pictures next to the beef eaters and things like that. Like stuff, but I stand where I stand. I get a little picture take, and then I walk off. I've heard people go, can I touch your hat? And they're like reaching up and the person is so stoic. They're not even supposed to like do that kind of stuff. But imagine the like inhumanity, like, cause these people are serving their country. Yeah. They're a part of the military in that case. And so if you put it in that, okay, so they're in a costume you're not used to seeing. But if you put it into that context, would you walk up to a random soldier in the United States and be like, can I pet your head? You wouldn't, right? So like this is the same thing. It's just a different costume.
You're asking my people constantly touch people without permission.
And the way in which I don't like to be touched, like I mean with closer friends, I get there, but you know how I am with other people, right? Like I don't like to touch.
Consent, just because someone is sharing a space with you is not consent to be touched. This animal was not consent to be touched. That sign clearly said, now people are like, why wasn't it more clear? Don't touch. It should go without goddamn saying, if it's not yours,
don't touch it. Yeah, literally
don't touch it.
The easiest thing in the world is to not do something.
Right?
It's so easy to not do something.
And the gentleman that put his arm underneath the horse's neck.
Yeah, and like
you are now in between the reins. If the horse decided your shit could have been tossed into the fucking air.
Yeah.
I saw, the rider, he is legitimately trying to keep the horse protected to not be able to, because the horse was like, did you see the horse like a few times?
Yeah.
And the rider's like, don't do it, don't bite, man. Don't
I mean,
bite.
so much like you're putting the rider at stake, or at risk, you're putting the horse at risk, you know, like because the people nearby.
Right. Like, you know, the famous stories of Harambe with that stupid parent who dangled their child.
Yeah.
That animal lost its life
because of humans.
Because of humans being
I
shitty.
want that parent to feel like they're the reason why Harambe was murdered.
Yeah.
And
you
I
should,
don't care.
forever.
I would say murdered because it's
not
his fucking fault what happened.
Yeah, he was doing what they naturally do.
Yeah.
So anyway, that video made me so uncomfortable because for those of you who don't know, I work with animals for a living. That's my job. I work with dogs. It hurts to see an animal clearly saying, I am uncomfortable. Please don't touch me.
Yeah.
And people disregarding that because it makes them feel good.
You know, I've had someone staying with me where I was saying, you know, your presence is actually causing my cats to have higher anxiety, and them try to convince me like, no, they're behaving just fine in front of me. And I'm like, you don't know my animals. I know my animals. And just because it lets you pet it or something like that on occasion, I don't know, you know, like I'm reading the signs and I see these little motherfuckers every single day, and I know that they are uncomfortable.
I know your cats are like a side eye.
Yeah, it's like
side eye.
Side eye. So because of the most recent experience of this, I'm like, I'm never again. You know, like if these people aren't people who frequently know my cats, I'm not going to sit there and be like, yeah, stay at my house for 2 months. You know, I'm going to keep that down to a couple of days going forward.
You know, and
leave it alone.
I think, and the thing is, like, it's going to be, because also in, depending on where you travel in the world, you're going to see animals on the street. And that's going to be hard for me because I am one of those, I like animals more than I like people.
Man, a homeless person could be invisible if they have a homeless dog next to them.
Yes, that is.
My initial reaction is, let me go get some food for that dog, and then I'm like, oh, there's a whole human right next to that dog that I did not see.
I'm currently a damaged human. I don't trust humans very much anymore. Honestly, the panini has really destroyed that.
That being said, I get it. Like I watched this TikTok video recently of a man who his family had become unhoused during all this shit that's been going on lately, and he had a pet rabbit, and him and that pet rabbit were hella attached, and that rabbit went with him wherever he goes. And so people started paying attention to him because the videos started popping up of him with his rabbit. And like, you know, you do see the criticisms like, you should just let the rabbit go. Well, what are you doing? This is a domesticated rabbit, first of all. Yeah. Second of all, you're unhomed. How are you going to also have the resources to home your rabbit? Yeah. So like, I get it. I get why I wouldn't want to get rid of my animals too if I became suddenly homeless or something like that. But
I think that the stronger question that people seem to not just keep avoiding is, why do we live in a world where we are the richest country in the world and we have people who are unhomed?
Especially when we have more than enough empty homes right now where we could house people.
Well, and currently right now, 64% of all Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, which means there are one oops away from being on the street.
I'm one of those people.
Yep.
You've bailed me out several times.
And I am now in a comfortable place in my life because I'm very lucky because certain things lined up a certain way.
Certain things lined up. You work hard too. There's things like that.
But also when the shit hit the bed, when I got sick with cancer in my 20s, I had the privilege of being able to call my parents and say, I need money.
Yeah.
Not most people can't do that. Right. So anyway, I think what we want to end on is a humdinger.
Yes, this one immediately spoke to me as well, because I was actually going to suggest it too, but then you had already had it in the cache. So because of where we are going, this one popped up as like, oh shit thing. And I just want to say to everybody out there, don't ever do anything like this.
Please. And if we see you in public,
we'll do exactly the same thing that the crowd did too.
Or worse, because I'm violent.
Thought people were cheering for her when she went up a sacred Mayan temple in Mexico that's off limits to people. She even danced like this. Looks like she only realized that people were mad at her when they kept pushing her away from the temple and throwing water at her and even plastic bottles. I just want to say, as someone who visited many countries around the world, respect for people's culture and tradition should come as a priority for the tourist. That shouldn't be difficult. Respect other people's culture. Simple as that.
What was so infuriating about this is there's so many layers before you even get that far to warn you not to do this thing.
Yeah.
And that she continued to refuse to either listen, read, whatever, and still did that. Am I mad that you're curious about going into a place you're not supposed to go into? No, we're fucking human. We're curious. Would I want to see the insides of ancient world? Yes, that's my whole thing. Like, I'm really into shit like that. I was going to study shit like that, but I couldn't afford the kind of college I needed to go to, so I didn't. I get the curiosity, but what I don't have is the curiosity that makes me violate sacred spaces for people. I'm a person who's an atheist who don't believe in shit, and still will not violate a sacred space if it's sacred to somebody, another culture or something like that. The concern about damaging something with my modern clothes, my skin oils, whatever. I'm not going to touch something I'm not supposed to touch. I'm not going to put my shoes on top of something that's not supposed to have. All those kind of things are happening. And the fact that this person went through that many layers of don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Still, forget about the exercise of it all too. But that also, my knees, no. That you got that far. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I want to go up there, but my
knee, even if they're like, today,
we're opening it up.
You are respectful of culture, we're gonna go ahead and let you get in there. I'll be like,
nah, my arthritis
though.
My arthritis ain't gonna allow that. But thank you so much.
But that she did all of that and still had the audacity to think she was being cheered for. And then got down, and all of a sudden is like, I can't believe people were so rude and horrible to me.
I'm getting death threats. They're threatening of hitting me. I'm like, what's the big deal?
The
woman that was the woman's action in the the one where she went into the church. What was the big deal? Like, ooh, I'm gonna get cursed or something. I'm like,
it doesn't even matter if that is the belief around that place.
Exactly.
That part doesn't even matter. It's the fact that the people first asked you, you can come in here, but don't film it.
Yeah.
Easiest thing in the world to not do something. Again. That someone said it's important to us. Okay, it's important to you. That's all I need to know. Do I need a reason?
Do I need to know why?
Even if I'm fucking curious about that reason. Am I entitled to that reason? No. If I think I'm cute, gonna still do the thing I'm not supposed to do. Like, it's not like I haven't done something not like that, but like, I've been in a concert where I wasn't supposed to have a camera out. Or I've been to a comedy show or something like that. I've snapped a little picture, I've done a little video and stuff like that. Yes. Was I told not to do it? Yes, of course. Was it sacred ground? No. What in the process of doing that, did I damage some property or something like that? No. Did I violate a request? Yes. I acknowledge that. So
would you do that now? No. Probably
if I got kicked out of like the comedy club because Dave Chappelle doesn't like to be on camera or some shit like that, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, different times. But like,
while he's being transphobic,
if I had gotten kicked out of the comedy club, it would have been like, yeah, it sucked, I got kicked out, but I had all the information to tell me not to do that thing, and I did it anyway.
So don't act surprised.
so don't act surprised, right? So in the case of like actually violating an area that's sacred space, or say like a practice, like you and I have had conversations about this, I think even on this show, where like, let's say we were invited to participate in a sacred ceremony. You've asked me this question, I think. Like, if someone invited you to participate in a sacred ceremony that is normally a closed ceremony, would we do this? And my thing is like, I would have to weigh so many things before the yes happened. First of all, my lack of belief in a lot of things, supernatural or otherwise, would probably preclude me from participating in a lot of different things, you know. Does that make me not respect certain practices or something like that? No. There are things like, you know, I'm not a Buddhist, and yet I was raised with some aspects of Shinto Buddhism because of my Japanese family. I know how to like pray kind of at a temple or whatever, and if I see a temple, I will participate. And yet it's not like I think that, well, obviously Buddhists, we don't have a God anyway, so it's a little bit different. It's more of like respect to the space and things like that. So the way it's adjusted in my brain is a little bit different. But I would participate in that because that's something I have somewhat of access to in the way that I was growing up. But like, let's say an indigenous tribe here in the United States or on this land that is occupied, that they said, okay, we're going to invite you to a closed space because we think you'll respect it. I will appreciate the invitation, but I don't think I would go into the closed practice. But if there was a different part of the practice that was open, I would say, yes, I feel comfortable participating in this, and thank you for the invitation. But I don't know how I might accidentally invalidate or disrespect just because of my present, you know, like maybe just the fact that I don't believe in spirits might be the thing that would make me not appropriate to participate in this practice and stuff like that. So something like what this woman did, marching to the top of a sacred temple that was closed to her own beat, to the dancing around. The other part too is like not even any kind of like cultural dance, like whatever the place you might have been used as in the past, not even doing something like that, you know, like there's so many things of layers of disrespect. And then the audacity to be like, I don't understand what everybody's problem was. Listen, if you are the one person confused when an entire, like, look at what you united what looked like tourists. I'm not really good with numbers of people and stuff like
that. There were a lot.
Let's say at least like 50, 60
at least
people.
50. Yeah.
You united strangers
from all walks of life. That is a
different culture,
tourist place. All of them going out of pocket.
And if you're the one being booed, you're the only one confused.
Yeah.
You are the one who has work to do.
And honestly, if you are confused, legitimately confused by that, you shouldn't be out in public in general.
Why were you even there?
But most of the time when I meet people that behave this way, they know what they're doing. They're just playing dumb now because they're especially, you know, people that look like me, they do that.
Or they legitimately think they are entitled, that they are that much above everybody else.
It's no big deal. Yeah, to you.
I mean, what do you want? White people used to eat mummies. They had to learn how to bathe from brown people. I mean, I know these are
we made furniture from
bodies,
from enslaved people. So
ate babies.
So and all you guys going, that's not true. That's not American history. I never taught that in school. Yeah, you were not taught.
You weren't taught it in school. You weren't taught it in school.
Read a book.
So yeah, like. I like the idea of this, and maybe we'll do this. I mean,
honestly, guys, if you have, we'll end with that. But I want to end with one thing with you because it's really quick. There is a really great article from Skiff that says, Skiff Take. If tourists from the United States are the unofficial ambassadors to the world, then the worst among them are ensuring that local residents will resent them and more destinations will erect barriers to entry. Okay. If hospitality and all its welcoming is all about welcoming guests in a cuddly embrace, then many destinations around the world will likely become increasingly inhospitable to tourists from the United States as more begin to travel again. Why is that? Or if these countries indeed don't erect new and official barriers, such as the exclusionary travel bubbles to visitors from the United States, then many of their citizens will become openly hostile, even with the trade-off for American dollars that pour into local economies. Okay. All right. So with some parallels, in the 1960s, when the U.S. role in Vietnam War spurred global calls of go home Yankee, no matter where you were in the world, when some tourists from the U.S. would have preferred to pass themselves off as sympathetically received Canadians. Hello, Shae, that's you. Welcome, Matt.
Let's go get our Maple Leaf t-shirts just in case.
Okay. Welcome mats are going to be missing for American tourists in some destinations. Indeed, American exceptionalism appears to have run its course. The division of the years did no favors for the reputation of U.S. citizens abroad or even in other parts of their own country. In Puerto Rico, during the spring break, with throngs of U.S. travelers cavorting around the tourist district of San Juan, you can hear residents complaining that some Maslic Americans tourists are having loud parties, causing fights, and are being disrespectful to the locals. Whether it's from Miami Beach, then Florida, or Puerto Rico, which is part of the U.S., American visitors do not have to leave their borders to create havoc.
That's true.
Quote, did you read the problem of some tourists in Puerto Rico? Says a spa owner, with the influx of North Americans staying in hotels and Airbnbs. What is their concept of Puerto Rico by behaving this way? What do they think that what we are? Are we horrible people to them, or are they also just horrible people? So the U.S. So it is reported by the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration. They continue to crack down on prosecution and seek jail sentence against airline passengers behaving badly. Since the trail of just the last 3 months of the previous year, they had more than 500 reports of interest. 500 reports of unruly passengers with refusing to wear masks or assaulting flight crew or each other.
This is, yes, I don't understand the assaulting people for trying to implement something that is not like, it's not my rule. It's just
cannot
literally
hear
me.
no.
Yeah.
I
don't understand this level of entitlement.
Again, we've been catered to, and this is what happens when spoiled fucking children don't have limits. So the spat of racially motivated murders and attacks, including in the most recent Atlanta shootings that killed 6 Asian American women, will almost lead to a backlash from U.S. tourists in China. It did, right? So, of course, another dynamic occurring as well is as Chinese tourists with the many wallets that come to the United States. Many of them, and because they spend a lot of money at luxury shopping, they stay at really nice hotels. They're starting to shun Disney, Orlando parks, as well as other places, because they don't blame them because of how they're being treated. Brand USA, the public private marketing arm of U.S. tourism, has had its work cut out because of the former President Trump's Muslim ban and anti-immigrant policies, even before the pandemic. Trump, who managed to relentlessly stir up anti-Asian sentiment with his sayings such as the China virus throughout the COVID era, and continued to do so after visiting the White House. Right? Like, he's even exiting the White House. He's even saying it. Okay.
He's still saying shit like that.
Right. During the summer, they've reported that Hawaii has said they would rather open to tourists from Japan, Korea, and Australia than make way to fellow citizens from the mainland because of how U.S. citizens act.
That makes sense to me too.
We're creating where most people are acting like they don't want, and I don't blame them. Again, the U.S. tourisms are becoming pariahs.
The part about that's frustrating to someone who looks like me or darker is that we will get the stench of the Americanness on our blue passport when we don't even experience full citizenship in the country that we exist in. And since other countries, unlike the United States, don't like have this race hierarchy over national identity, right? It'll be interesting about how that impacts, someone like me, as we travel together, and it would it would be a weird request of like a pass, be like, I promise I'm not that kind of American, I'm not even a citizen really in my own country, where like anybody could even hear or listen to something like that, which is again another reason why I do want my dual citizenship, to have that extra passport in case I need to flip,
right?
Passport wise, what even though the UK is also responsible for
Well, I mean,
things like that. It's a different level of
there are
pariahness, I think.
assholes everywhere. Clearly, we saw
Sure.
that in some of the things we were just talking about here. But only in the United States, our passport, our visa gets us into 270
Almost
countries.
every, yeah.
We can walk in.
We can
That
just
is
walk in.
not like that from citizens from all over.
No.
Okay, to include Canada. But
Yeah.
like, so with the murder of the Asian women in Atlanta and the torrent of hate crimes that have been like, what is it? Since Trump took office, 360% increase in hate crimes against Asians in America alone. Many Asian countries are releasing warnings about traveling here. Fair is all I have to say about that. But also, what happened, I guess it's starting to happen more and more now. As more of this is happening, there are apparently a major backlash in China to U.S. tourists.
What do you mean, like citizens that are...
So U.S. citizens that were traveling in China during this time started reporting being harassed and being attacked as a retaliation because they're sick and tired of our mentality. Okay. I mean, I don't want to be some grouped into them, but again, I am
like
American.
we can't wear a sign that says...
I'm not like, because they don't know me from whatever, right?
But you could still feel like, I think even if something like that were to happen to us, we'd be like, we understand what motivated it. It doesn't mean that we want that shit to happen to us or anything like that, but we understand what our country did.
Yeah.
And with that in mind, that might impact the way we also travel.
And the way we interact with people.
Yeah, because we're gonna have to acknowledge the fact that we, in coming to a place with our blue passport, we bring along all the identity that our country has with it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. Like, you just don't have the kind of time to tell somebody, but wait, this is the kind of stuff America does to me. Yeah. And I'm a citizen. And I'm like, you don't have that kind of time. So yeah, absolutely. If shit like that were to happen to us abroad, you'd be like,
it will happen. There will be people, because they know where we're coming from, that they don't want to work with us. And we're just going to have to accept that, because that is, yes. But it's such a broader picture there to be like, I think from when my people go, well, I didn't do that to certain people of color. Why am I being, because there's history there.
There's history there.
You also seem to not know that history. And even though I didn't do it, I still I apologize for that behavior
on behalf of
that, because you deserved to be treated better than that. And those people do represent me as much as I hated. They do represent me.
They do. Unfortunately, they do. I mean,
they're my people.
Even and part of the nature of our relationship, conversations we've had over the years is like, you and I have had real conversations where we'll say something like, it's not if you're going to fuck up and say some white shit, it's when. But then it's over these years, what you've shown every time is pause, research, come back, discuss, move forward with the new knowledge, right? I have a different version of those types of fuck ups. I'm a lighter skinned brown person. I do experience a privilege that my darker skinned counterparts don't experience. I am sometimes aware of that and sometimes not. I would say I'm more aware of it now than I've probably ever been in my life. Part of me, quote, suffers because I don't understand that, my privilege, whatever. I'm not saying that is a real feeling, but there's times when I'm just like, well, shit, I actually am more in alignment with the darker skin counterparts than I am with the lighter skin counterparts. And yet I understand what my face, what my skin tone, what my hair texture does when I enter a space.
Yeah.
And so when I'm not welcomed or allowed in a space because of that, I don't get bent out of shape towards the people excluding me. I say, I understand what's happening. It sucks.
Yep.
But
I gotta go.
Place.
It's not my place. I gotta go. Yeah.
And I don't think of that as like a special behavior, or I should be let in because I've, nothing like that. What I'm saying is that until such time as the rest of y'all act right,
Yeah.
My exclusion in a space like that makes sense.
So this article goes on to say that they're noticing some trends, and they say that moving forward for the next 4 years alone, they're saying what we need a speculative look at the travel industry for the next 4 years. They're going to be right that most travelers are going to be, quote, shocked into a new consciousness that will make more deliberate, respectful, and soulful choices about their global meanderings. Why is that? Because they go on to talk about how there are places now where Americans are traveling where locals will not talk to you.
I don't blame them.
And that's being polite, because there are other places where they're like, go home, get the out of here. Especially, and there's like some places in Europe, some places outside of Europe that are saying I only want Americans staying. They're only going to be allowed to this kind of area. We're not even going to let them know about other, like, they're
fair. Fair.
Fair.
It all seems fair to me.
And that sucks. But we literally have to start doing better. And I'm hoping that maybe we're going to fuck up, but I'm hoping that we could maybe lead by example in some ways to our people. Hey, can we be a little better?
I mean, yeah, hopefully, as we start having more video content and stuff like that, ultimately, I think like what we discussed with Jay last time said, I don't think we can help anymore. I don't think anybody is worth either worth saving and or capable of being saved.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the way we choose to move is the best that we can offer, right? If in the course of the time that we're spending time outside of this country, people see like we're one of the good ones type of a thing.
Yeah. Oh, I hated you saying that. That makes
I hate that didn't feel good for me to say that. But like I would also get it if I was in like if we're in Merida and someone says like they're okay for an American, I'd be like, thank you. I get it. In the way that I am a human person, I understand not wanting to be excluded. That being said, my being excluded doesn't trigger entitlement to a space. I don't know what is different about me besides the fact that I'm a brown person versus someone, who just also it takes no work for me is what I'm trying to say. It takes no work for me to accept exclusion.
And again, maybe this is only because from my perspective being from is that I've unpacked
from the people of white,
the land of white, is that I've done a lot of soul searching over the last 20 years of trying to do better, know better to do better. And when somebody says that makes me uncomfortable or you being here doesn't make me, honestly, I don't want to be in that space if you're uncomfortable.
Right.
I don't take that personal anymore. Right. And maybe it sucks. Like, don't get me wrong. My feelings are always going to, I'm human.
We're not inhuman about it.
Right. But I would rather leave.
Yeah.
And to make somebody feel safer than to.
My hurt feelings don't entitle me to a space. I can walk away from the space, have my little hurt feelings, and move on. Find a different space. I mean, that's fine. There's no fucking thing that's really that bad about in the way in which exclusion. Okay. And I guess to be more clear about what I'm saying, if in a brown space, I'm excluded because of my American status, because of my mixedness, because of my light skinnedness, there's different things I need to understand to understand that exclusion. And then when I understand it, fine. Now, if someone's saying, if I'm excluded from a white space, that's a different thing. Because in a lot of cases, my exclusion from a white space is on behalf of me being a brown person. And it's on behalf of the privilege of that white space. Now, that is something I would fight against, obviously. White American, I guess let's even boil it down even further because you got to get down to the layers. But
white British, because they act like racism doesn't exist in Britain.
Right.
Come on.
But in the same way of this, like, when I'm in Britain, I am still an American, even though I'm part British, right? Like I'm still, so there's things that I would get from there. Until such time as I had my citizenship, I would feel a lot less ownership to a space than whenever I'm able to establish citizenship there.
Right.
And then in that respect, I think, in the same way that I would hope that immigrants that become naturalized here in the United States would get privileges of the blue passport or of being American, knowing that they probably don't. I would still kind of want that for myself as well if I took citizenship in the UK. But like if in Mexico we go and someone says this particular location is not for tourists, I would understand my status as a tourist. And say, for whatever reason that I don't necessarily need to have an explanation for, because this is not my country, this is not my place, I'm not included there. Okay, fine. Sacred temple. Am I a part of a participant of this culture and this religion or whatever? Nope. Okay, that's not my space. It makes sense. So there, obviously there's nuance to the conversation that we're having, but in the way in which, as an American tourist, which I will have to accept that is the status I'm going to be in,
right?
Regardless of my feelings about having American citizenship and what that means for me as a brown person, I'm going to understand and acknowledge that they won't have the nuance of a person like me to decide to exclude or invite me. Right. They will need to get to know me to make that kind of decision if they want to get to know me
at all. Yeah.
At all, right? And it's not my place to say, no, you need to be cool with me,
right?
Because XYZ reasons. That's not it. If you want to learn to be cool, if you want to get to know me and see if I'm cool, I'm going to be open to that. If you don't, what am I going to do? Why would I want to be in a place, like you just said, why would I want to be in a place where I'm not welcomed?
I'm not
welcome for whatever reason, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I know it's a complicated discussion, but I think it just makes sense. This is not the location that you come from. No. You don't understand the cultural nuances. You don't understand the spiritual significance to some people. And I'm saying that as a person who doesn't believe in any kind of spirituality.
Right.
I don't need to know necessarily all of those things, even if I am curious.
Yeah. You don't have to understand to be respectful.
You don't have to understand. You don't. You just be respectful of the situation.
Right.
And move on with your life.
Right.
On that note, we are at the time of recording 26 days away from going to Merida. It does feel like we've ran out of time. There's no way we're going to get everything done in time to get to go. I'm still waiting for my passport to be replaced. So many other things are freaking out about.
I'm freaking out.
But hopefully everything goes well, and worst comes to worst, we roll with whatever the complicated things that ends up happening to get us to go. But I don't know. Like, I don't know when our next episode might be, if we're going to be able to time it out. Okay.
I don't know either.
Go or whatever. We're going to work it out.
We're going to figure it out. Follow us on all the medias.
Follow us on the social media so that you can keep up to date with us. Right. We are still trying to kind of push more like reviews and more views or listens through Spotify so that we can start to get ourselves to a point where we can start getting advertisement for the show so that we can pay for the show. So if you're listening to this, please follow us, subscribe on whatever podcatcher you listen to. But if you could head on over to Spotify, that would be really helpful. You can also leave us voicemails on anchor.fm/queerfarpod.
Yeah.
So you can engage with the content that we have shared so far. If you got comments, questions, whatever.
If you have your own story of
share your tourism stories.
The tourism stories of people behaving badly. Share that. If you got video,
even better. Yeah, if you want to share the video.
If you ain't got something nice to say, you can sit by me.
So follow us on all the social media at QueerFarPod. We are on the Tik Toks. We are on the Instagrams. We're on the other ones too, but we're not paying attention to those, so just whatever. Yeah. And if you would like to sponsor the show in any way, shape, or form, or donate, you can go to ko-fi.com/queerfarpod and drop some coins in the tip jar for us there.
And we are going to be in Mérida, Mexico. Okay. I'm not going to give great dates. I don't think we should probably say things like that. But if there's something that you guys want us to check out while we're down there,
send us the recs.
Let us know. Because I would like we're gonna go check things out. We're gonna, especially if we got food.
Yeah, I've been every time I see someone post something about Mérida, I'm like, that's on the list. That's on the list.
That's on the list. That's on the list. That's on the list.
Yeah.
Okay. We want to hear from you guys, and yeah. So thank you for being here.
We are vaxxed.
We are waxed, and we're fully packed.
Let's go.
Queer and Far is a Main Hustle Media podcast, produced and edited by Charmaine Fury. Co-hosted by Charmaine Fury, aka The Blazing Blurred, and Shae Nahnigans. Music is Big Band Savage Jazz by Pine Groove. If you like what you've heard on Queer and Far, please subscribe, rate, and review on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Main Hustle Media. Turn your side hustle into your main hustle.